Last week, a famous celebrity Xiǎo S posted a photo of her two daughters eating at home with her, which then was criticized by Li Wen, the daughter of the writer Liao, for improper table manner. Li Wen then received backlash from the internet for being perceived as having an overly strong opinion on the daily lives of others. In response to the backlash, she wrote back several comments that end up rubbing some people the wrong way. Here are some of the sentences in her comment that I roughly translated into English. Quote, "To be a public figure, especially one with such a high reputation, you must set a good example. With so much money, you can help children find experts, help them, and educate them. It is understandable that your mother was not born into a good family, so why don't you help your underage children with such a good resource for your next generation?" This is a phenomenon in Taiwan which I called the Xiǎo S phenomenon. How many young people in Taiwan care about their basic etiquette now? They only care about gaming, being YouTubers, Uber food delivery, plastic surgery, and blindly living every day. But they don't know basic manners. Isn't this the tragedy of Taiwan? Even Terry Guo has a problem with table manners, not to mention he's so wealthy. Although everyone is insecure about their inferiority, so they don't listen to me. In the end, this is the so-called poor people do more mischief. And she ends her comment with the following sentence. So many ethnically Chinese people I have seen in New York and San Francisco have brought this bad table manner abroad. End quote. Well, I can understand why her comment rubbed so many people the wrong way. Because first, even though he might have good intention, her wording was, to be honest, blatantly classist, probably a bit ageist too. The final sentence of her statement, which revealed her anxiety about how ethnic Chinese people might be perceived in the United States, is also quite intriguing. There is a lot to unpack here, so let's dive deeper into the topic with PAA. Hi, I'm Xiǎo. Welcome to What People Also Ask, where I search something seemingly obvious and share with you some of its pa, aka People Also Ask, which is a feature telling you what other people are searching on Google that relate to your query. Today's query is table etiquette classist? We will try to dive into the nature of table etiquette and explore the idea of why some people think table etiquette is classist, and whether it's inherently classist or it depends on the context and the way they are enforced and imposed. So I want to start by first exploring this table manner shaming instance before discussing the nature of table manner itself. One interesting thing is that when Li Wen criticized Xiǎo S, she also mentioned that she thinks youth nowadays in general do not really care about table manners, which understandably ruffles some feathers of those who identify themselves as youth. In one article published by China Times, which is a conservative-leaning newspaper in Taiwan, even titled, "Are Young People Falling into the Xiǎo S Phenomenon?" which suggests that young people nowadays are lacking proper table manners. This made me wonder whether the decline in table manners, or at least the perceived decline in table manners, is a recent phenomenon limited to young generation. To investigate this, I decided to examine historical records for similar narratives or indication of the same issues in earlier times. So, when do people start to think their youth lack table manners? It turns out that the criticism of younger generation for having poor table manner is not at all a recent thing. One New York Times archive article titled "Table Manners: A Casualty of Changing Times," which was published in 1985, indicates that people at least have been saying that for 40 years ago. In this article, the author went on a tirade about their youth lacking table manners and attribute their loss in table manners into the following reasons. 1. The demise of traditional evening meal, when family gathered to eat, and parents were quick to correct errant manners. 2. The growth of fast food and ready-to-eat meals has also contributed to the decline in table manners. 3. Individual freedoms have come to value over decorum. And as families have spent less time together at the dinner table, parents have failed to pass on society's roles to the table. Even it's the earliest article that I found about people blaming their youth for lacking table manners. It is difficult to pinpoint an exact time in history when people begin to think their younger generation lack table manners, as this is a sentiment that likely exists for centuries. Different generations have always had their own customs, and it is common for older generation to feel that a younger one does not adhere to the same standard of the etiquette they were raised with. The concept of table manners has evolved over time, and specific custom and etiquette rules changing depend on the culture and historical context. As those changes occurred, it is natural for the individuals to perceive that the younger generation lacks proper table manners. The perception that younger generation lack table manners is not a new phenomenon, and it has likely existed in a various forms throughout history. This perception is influenced by evolving social norms, cultural factors, and a natural generation gap that rise as society continues to change. I want to mention one interesting detail about the article is that the author mentioned Judith Martin, the author of the popular syndicated etiquette column back then called Miss Manners, attribute the decline of table manners to the nation's founders and their emphasis on equality and disdain for insincere politeness. Martin suggested that this trend may have originated with Thomas Jefferson himself. The reason Jefferson's attempt to ease the rule of diplomatic ranking during his presidency was that he believed they imposed artificial distinction among men who were created equal. This perception in turn indirectly affects Americans' views of table manner as a form of classism, because they can create unnecessary distinction between people and may not always reflect a person's true characters or values. This leads to the topic we mainly want to discuss today. Is table manner classist? An article titled Why Table Manners Still Matter, published by Times, insinuates that table manners are not inherently classist because their purpose is to show respect and consideration for others, regardless of social classes. By knowing and adherence to appropriate table manners, you demonstrate your understanding of cultural norms and your ability to adapt to different situations. This can be particularly helpful in business dealing, as showing respect for someone's culture is an invaluable skill. Furthermore, good table manners can create a positive impression on others, potentially leading to personal or professional advancement. In this context, table manners are seen as a tool for effective communication and relationship building, rather than a way to enforce class distinctions. However, while we all know showing respect and consideration for others during a meal is important, some would argue it does not automatically make table etiquette classism-free. Judging someone's characteristic based on table manners or etiquette in general, and the idea of good etiquette could lead to personal or professional advancement, might actually be classist by itself. An article titled Making Etiquette for Everyone Again, Despite or Because of Its Weaponization, was published by Salon.com, which is a news and opinion website that covers a wide range of topics related to politics, culture, entertainment, and technology. The article begins with a sentence quote, "Proper etiquette can be blessing and boon to our interaction, provided it isn't used as a weapon." In this article, the author Melanie McFarlane, an American television critic and journalist, recounted an early life experience where she participated in a major metropolitan newspaper summer program. During the program, a brief interaction with one of the newsroom's managers led to an invitation for lunch at a nice restaurant. The manager said little during the meal, leaving Melanie to carry on the conversation, which was impolite but not as problematic as the manager's real intention. The manager was closely observing Melanie's etiquette, such as how she ate her soup, which forks she used for salad, and how she held the utensil. These were all things that Melanie's mother had taught her from her young age. At the end of the meal, the managers praised Melanie's manners while making derogatory remarks about the other kids in the program, most of whom were also ethnic minority like Melanie herself. A day later, Melanie was assigned to the newspaper's research department as an assistant, which led to interactions with famous writers and connection with other editors. Melanie emphasized that this story is not a triumphant story, as her memory of the meal entwined with humiliation and shame. When she asks her mother if it is wrong to accept the opportunity, she advised her to embrace her good fortune and never forget the circumstances that lead to it. According to her, the meal played a major role in obtaining her first major break in professional journalism, but it also provided her first lesson on how rules or etiquette can be willed to be classist and racist. The idea of table etiquette could be classist or even racist might ruffle a lot of people's feathers. Some might even argue that the very idea of table etiquette could be classist or racist itself is classist and racist because it insinuates people from lower classes or ethnic minority cannot learn proper table manners. Nevertheless, it is crucial to acknowledge that individuals possess financial resources and cultural capital, undoubtedly enjoying greater access to the refined table manners, as suggested by Li Wen's remark to Xiǎo S. Quote, "It is understandable that your mother was not born into a good family, so why don't you help your underage children with such a good resource for your next generation?" Unquote. And another comment from Li Wen also mentioned one session of her international business etiquette classes cost $500, which obviously those who without dispensable income would not be able to afford. In addition, many of the table etiquette rules we are familiar with today were indeed historically designed by aristocrats to distinguish themselves from the common folk and preserve social standing. And Europe-centric traditions have a significant impact on the table manner, particularly in the context of fine dining. An article titled "Manners Don't Encourage Good Behavior, Just Class Discrimination," published by theswaddle.com, which was a website that covered a wide range of topics, argues that table manners are classist because they were historically designed by the aristocrat to distinguish themselves from the common folk and to preserve their social standing. The article argued that table manners and social etiquette were originally designed to create a distinction between the aristocrat and the common people, ensuring the preservation of power and social standing for the privileged. With time, these rules become even more crucial for maintaining social hierarchy as new sources of wealth emerge. For example, Erasmus, a 16th century thinker, helped establish various social etiquette rules that still persist today. The development of table manners in Europe during the Renaissance period was a way for the nobility to create a clear distinction between the wealthy and the poor, often leading to the creation of unnecessary and unaffordable dining items, like they were pudding spoon, oyster fork, and fish knives and asparagus tongs, completely unbeknown to the common folks. By the 18th and 19th century, the land was no longer the only source of wealth, weakening aristocratic power, so social etiquette became an even more important tool for distinction and power preservation. The Nouveau-Riche adopted manners and styles in an attempt to gain access to elite circles. Those who failed to conform were considered unworthy of affluence and close networks of old money. In countries colonized by European powers such as India, Western etiquette combined with local tradition and the pervasive caste system to make differentiation between people and performing superiority even easier. Failure to adhere to social etiquette rules may lead to others to believe that an individual lack refinement comes from lower socio-economic background or not from quote-unquote a good family. The pervasive global anxiety to live up to the standards set primarily by European power may explain why Li Wen expressed her own anxiety in her comment. Quote, "So many ethnically Chinese people I had seen in New York and San Francisco have brought these bad table manners abroad, which insinuate that people from Western culture have better table etiquette. Which is obviously not the case, by the way. I have been to both cities and saw how people eat there." At the meantime, throughout history, various cultures have used table manners as a means of reinforcing the social status of higher classes. For example, in traditional Chinese banquets, guests would be seated according to their social status, with the most honored guest seated at the head of the table. The host would also serve the most prestigious dishes to this guest first. And in ancient China, proper use of chopsticks was seen as a sign of good breeding and education. The elite was expected to handle chopsticks with grace, precision, and elegance, reflecting their social status. So, is table manner classist? Well, while it does have somewhat classist root in the context of history, the question of whether table manners are classist is a highly debated issue in modern society. I have compiled some pros and cons arguments as follows. Table manners might not be classist because 1. Basic courtesy. Some table manners, such as not talking with one's mouth full or using utensil properly, can be seen as a basic courtesy rather than classist behavior. Those manners promote hygiene, cleanliness, and respect for others at a table. 2. Social cohesion. Table manner can promote a sense of unity and cooperation among people sharing a meal, creating an environment of respect and consideration for others. 3. Culture exchange. Learning and adopting table manner from various cultures can foster understanding and appreciation for diversity, promoting cross-cultural exchange and breaking down class barriers. Table manner might be classist because 1. Cultural imposition. Table manners are often based on the norm and custom of a particular culture or social class, which may not be universally applicable or understood. Imposing these manners on people from different backgrounds may create barriers and reinforce class divisions. 2. Social exclusion. Those who are not familiar with the specific table manners might feel excluded or judged, leading to social segregation based on one's ability to adhere to certain etiquette rules. 3. Economic inequality. Table manners often reflect the lifestyle and habit of the upper class, which can perpetuate the idea that certain behavior or taste are superior to others. This can reinforce social hierarchy and contribute to the marginalization of lower-income individuals. In conclusion, table manners might and might not be perceived as classist depending on the context and the way they are enforced or imposed. It is essential to approach table manners with cultural sensitivity and an open mind, allowing for an inclusive and respectful dining experience. And most importantly, we must refrain from weaponizing table manners and using them as a basis for judging people's characters or a criterion for selecting candidates for career advancement, especially if the position or promotion has no relevance to the table manner. As Melanie McFarland wrote in her article, proper etiquette can be a blessing and a boon to our interaction, provided it isn't used as a weapon. If you made it to the end of the video, chances are that you enjoy learning what people also ask on Google. But let's face it, reading PAA yourself will be a pain. So here's the deal, I will do the reading for you and upload a video compiling some from PAA once a week. All you have to do is to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you won't miss any PAA report that I compile. So just do it right now. Bye!